time you're watching from whatever rad place you are. I'm Ryan.
And I'm David.
And that together makes us
gentlemen, we have
rad.
the pleasure of introducing you to not one. We have been very fortunate with our guest speakers, may I say, Ryan, but not one, but two guest speakers today. Ladies and gentlemen, Isabela Grajeles and Alejandra. Turn on your cameras, folks. All right, welcome.
Hello.
Good afternoon, guys. Ladies. How are you doing?
Very good.
We're doing very good, and you?
Excellent, excellent. Welcome to the Rad Podcast. Well, we're here today to talk about a project that these young ladies are developing at school that has to do with gender violence and as gender equality as well. So we're here to talk about that. We're two rad men, and these are two rad ladies who are going to discuss these topics with us today. So we're super excited to have you. Welcome. And please tell us a little bit about what you're doing for your project.
Okay, so like our basic idea is that we wanted to carry out our project because we think that the cognitive characteristics that some people have are independent from their sex. Like, it seems unfair to us that there is still inequality all around the world because of the stereotypes that society has created all around all the cultures that have been developed.
So this is why we decided to carry out our project with a population which are the fourth graders of our school. And what we want to do is to prevent gender violence since childhood by different educational activities and by strengthening their values and like their knowledge in the topic.
Very cool, very cool. No. This is an interesting topic, I have to say, because I also know about some historical relevance of it as well. I mean, something that I find particularly interesting is that gender equality, it can be inequality, if you will, can be seen on the forefronts of economics, politics, society, and even in people's personal lives. I believe, at least, these are like the four main forms of gender inequality where we see gender inequality happening, right? Like politics, society, economics, and in personal life. What do you guys think?
Oh, yeah, that's like the basic message we want to people know. Like, it's necessary to have equality between all of us because we're all equal. We all have the same abilities, and we all can reach the same goals if we want really to do it. So it's like independent from if you are man or woman. It's just like being you and just being who you are and what you think.
No, absolutely.
And it is what you were talking about of politics, because like, for example, in Colombia, we can see that like there are less women who are in the public like jobs. For example, Colombia has never had a woman president.
And I don't know if you know of some law that says that like minimum like 40% of the political places in our country should be women. So it's also like a stereotype that like all of these 60% is basically composed by men. So it doesn't have like a real equivalence between both.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that in terms of the political sphere, because I love to read The Economist, and I read an article. I mean, they get a little bit weird with some articles, but they had an article that came out back in December, if I remember right, and it was saying how female politicians, in fact, get things done. Sometimes men, they'll be bickering, and they're like, no, my ego is the height of Mount Kilimanjaro, and other people will be like, no, my ego is the height of Everest, so top that. Oh, no, my ego is the type of, so, you know, there's all this like masculinity and ego that gets played into politics, but the article was, you know, it was generalizing the world, if you will, and it was saying how having more female politicians in politics would actually get a lot more legislation passed. Do you guys believe that as well, or what's your opinion?
I think that it must be like an equality, like both of the sexes like have the same knowledge, the same capacity, like they can develop like the same kind of ideas.
Oh, absolutely.
I think pretty much the same. And if you look like you cannot stereotype like the sexes. Like when you talk about men, you cannot talk about them being like strong, and you cannot talk of them being like yeah, I am the most powerful in here. I am like, because men usually, like in all throughout history, men are who like have gained more power than women, and that's the big problem that we have recognized in our project.
Yeah.
So like for understanding like the basic thing that we want to really explain is the difference between sex and gender. So you there's so many people that like think that they're maybe the same, or that they're they're dependent one from another, but like really they are not, because sex comes from biology. Sex is like, it refers to the reproductive organs of a person that has male or female reproductive organs, and like female or male chromosomes and hormones. But then gender is like the social cultural process that comes up like in terms of feminine and masculine.
Yeah.
So it's like the behaviors, the attitudes, the way you act. So it doesn't mean that if you are a man, you have to act masculine, and if you are a woman, you have to act feminine. Can you put please the image about sex and gender? That one. Yeah. So there you can look that you have like many types of people, men and women, and that in their head there are their thoughts, the way they personally identify in which gender they should be like acting, and in which gender they are going to apply to their lives. So they are independent. So gender is independent of from your sex.
No, absolutely. No. It's a very colorful. I mean, you have the colors of the rainbow right there. Very, very nicely done. One question. You have someone right here who has both symbols, and someone right here who has both symbols as well. Would you care to explain that one?
Yeah. So in the first one, we have the girl who identifies, like, you can identify with both genders. You can have like both. You can be both, and you can like react in some gender, in a specific gender. But there are many people that are not identified with one exact gender. So it is possible to someone to have and to recognize themselves being feminine and masculine at the same time.
It's a very interesting point. There's yeah, go ahead, Ryan. Sorry, go for it.
So one of the things that you guys have done in your project is, like you mentioned at the beginning, was you decided to work with fourth graders, right? And so I'm wondering, first of all, why did you make that decision? And then what kinds of things have you found working with young children? At least how do they understand these ideas, or how much? I mean, by fourth grade, you've been in the school system now for possibly 6 or 7 years. So how deep is this way of thinking in these young people?
So we decided to work with fourth graders because we think that they are like in age in which they can understand like the different terms that we are working with, for example, gender, sex, discrimination, and they are not still too old like to be like late to work with this problem. So what we found is that many of them didn't know which was the difference of sex and gender. Many of them thought that it was the same. And we tried like that, we gave them a diagnosis. And we tried that it was like for their age. So we have like different tables in which they classify if they thought that, for example, a Barbie was for a girl or for a boy, or playing soccer. And we have like many different answers. Like there was not like the same answer for all of them. Many of them thought that many of the things that we put there was for both, or many of them thought that soccer was just for boys. And another thing that we did were interviews. And some of the girls told us that sometimes the boys didn't let them play soccer because it was just for boys. And
you know what's something like really interesting that we found out in the interview, in the initial diagnosis, it was that we had one question that asked them like, how does a girl should act, like how does she should behave, and how does a boy should behave and should act. They were two separate questions. And in the statistics of the answers of both of the questions, it was found out that there is a there is like there is a stereotype where they imagine that boys should act like however they really feel to act, and girls should act more like ladies, and like there should be like cute and beautiful and respectful and all of that stuff. So it was like many of their answers were like however they want to act, and they however they want to act was applied more for boys than for girls. Like girls should be like more like this, and boys like they can express themselves like however they want.
Mention an interesting thing because okay, small personal story. I do recall like my mom once telling me, no, you should not go anywhere near that Kelsey. Now she's a real bad tomboy. And I remember being 7 years old and thinking, a tomboy? I think she's a girl. What do you mean a tomboy? And that term tomboy implies that she's a girl but acts like a boy. And me at 7 years old is like, I don't realize that she's a girl. She just acts the same way that I do. That's why we have a great fun time and like mess around on the playground and everything, you know. So that term as well of tomboy I never really understood, but you know, it was also a thing of you know, of like, no, you must, like you said, follow this. Do you think it's parents or school systems or environments that tell us we should behave a certain way?
yes, we think that family is like a really important like part in the thinking that the kid has. And that was one problem that we thought that maybe could have our project, because maybe like a boy could arrive to his house and say, oh, some girls said me that I could dance, and maybe the family didn't have this like thinking, and that's why like that was one problem that we.
Yeah, that maybe the parents get like mad or something to us because of like they maybe can think about that we are like making them think special things that it's not our idea. Our idea is just like telling them like you should not be first, you should not be afraid to be whoever you want to be. If you are a girl and you want to play soccer, you cannot like stop being who you want to be just for being a girl or a boy. And another thing is that you should respect everyone that it's acting however they feel to act. It's more than that, the way you feel to develop yourself in the society, develop yourself in your family, develop yourself like in every term of your life. And if there's some people telling you like you cannot do this, you cannot do this, you're going to start thinking that like, oh, I should not do this because this is wrong, totally wrong. But it's not really really
And
like,
also to understand like different things as toys or colors, sports activities are not like related with the sex of a person.
and we as an activity we read some books to the children. Alejandra, can you please show us the books?
I'm
Go for them. Go for them.
I need to bring them.
Yeah. I'm afraid I don't have that material. Or yeah, she can show the. But actually, here I'll ask you a question because you touched on a while she's away. You touched on an interesting aspect, which is the personal aspect, right? Of like how family plays a role in the upbringing of you must be a boy to behave this way, you must be a girl to behave this way. So you've touched on the important family and personal element, but then there's the educational element as well. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but I believe that there's still many only girls' schools or only boys' schools in Colombia. Am I right in saying that still? Or
No.
not so many as there were in the
Yeah.
past, right? I went to,
But they
for
still
example, an all-boys school, and oh my goodness. Sorry, I need to have a moment of silence right here. Yeah, I'm glad. The first time I had a class with girls, I was like, really? Girls in a classroom? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, oh. Okay, it was like I was being reshaped and thinking like, oh, wait, how do we behave? And I realized, oh wait, no, I'm just supposed to behave the exact same way at the end of the day, right? So, there's an educational element, I feel, of like the upbringing of children, especially your groups that you looked at, fourth graders, making them go from, young men or young women to adulthood, right? There's an upbringing that gets played in with the school system as well. Right?
Yeah, because when you're 8 years old and or 9 years old, you have not like a critic thought about what's really happening on the world. So you can start creating like a new point of view of all this big problem that has been like developed all around, all throughout history.
Very cool. Very cool.
So, Alejandra.
One of the books that we read to them was Julian is a Mermaid. So it was about a boy, Julian, who wanted to be a mermaid. And he was like afraid of what his grandmother, who he calls abuela, could said to him for liking mermaids. But what happens at the end of the story is that like she supports them, and it doesn't matter that he's a boy and he likes mermaid. So we read the book to the kids, and they like understand and said that there was like no problem.
Yeah, but there were like two boys that while we were like reading, they started like, oh, he wants to be a girl, or oh, he's gay, or things like that. And we were like, it's not, we were explaining to them that it could be that a boy likes mermaids. It doesn't have like, it does not mean everything, nothing, anything. That for Julian, liking mermaids, he does not want to be a girl. He's not a girl, and he is not gay. And being gay is not a problem like right now. It's just like it is your personal definition of your gender and your special, yeah.
There's also, I find personally in the most recent history as well, incredible social strides, honestly, in terms of, like you said, honestly, well, there's one thing I was going to mention about feminism, but also gender equality. There's incredible strides in the past 7 years, honestly. When you look at the number of countries that have legalized gay marriage in the last 8 years, the US, Ireland, Italy, Well, okay, I know that there's some in Asia. I'm drawing some blanks right now, but anyway, I just mentioned 3 countries with immense populations, and they legalized gay marriage in the last 8 years, which, you know, is an incredible, honestly, like political, social element that's been added into life. The other thing that I was going to mention about, you know, in the past 8 years, and I find this, I read this article in the Esquire about a year or 2 ago. And Esquire is a type of magazine that's out there, but it was talking about the emergence of the female in a main character role. And I got to reading the article, and it's a good point. When you look at the movies from the 1980s or 1990s or even early millennium, except for Titanic, you would probably find, right, like the male who is the key, like, main character of the story in the movie. And yet when you look at movies in the past 5 years, I mean, the article went on to say it's also part of Hollywood kind of rebuting the Harvey Weinstein, et cetera, kind of cases. But in the past 5 years, there's a huge emergence of the female taking the main character, being the main character in a movie, right?
Yeah, that's
No?
we know that, like, that problem has advanced a lot because the new generations are like thinking, like expanding their minds about they're open-minded, with everything. But if you can see, like, many times in Colombian culture, for example, who does the, like, chores in the house, like woman, or your mother, like, the most of the times. I know, like, on Mr. Krause's house, he's the one who do chores, and yeah, that's like so good. But
I cooked lunch. I cooked lunch today, and most of the last month I've been cooking lunch.
Yeah, but there's, like, in the majority of Colombian houses and Colombian families, the mother is the one who has to cook, has to do, like, everything
Clean the dishes, clean the clothes.
That was another, like, activity that we did to the children, like who makes the who washes the dishes in your house, or who cooks. And most of the answers were that their mother or their grandmother. And that's when we, like, explain to them that everyone in the house, like, should help. It's not always the woman.
And that if you in the future get married with somebody, it's not that if you're a woman, you cannot let your husband to tell you that you're the woman of this house, you have to do it. It's like, no, we both have to do it, because it's our family, it's our house, it's everything that we have here it's from you and me. It's not just mine or yours.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. You bring up a fantastic point there. And I really want to have you guys answer this one question. For gender equality, for people to realize the necessity and value of it, what can we as a collective society do, right? People outside of your house, as everyone, what can we all do to make us realize the value of gender equality?
Can you put the image you were going, the blue one you were going to?
1 second, sorry. The blue one, am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, here we go.
Aleja.
Okay, so we think that, like, everything starts from respect in school, in your work, in your house, and also giving, like, opportunities in different spaces to women, because, like, they have, like, the same capacities as we already said. And these are, like, 5 points in an image that we found that are, like, very important for achieving, like, equality and for stopping gender violence. So it is important, as the first one says, empowering girls and women, because, like, if you don't, like, fight for your respect and for your opportunities, then who is gonna do it? You have to start, like, being confident of yourself and knowing that you can do everything like that you want to.
And it's especially girls and women because it's not a secret for anybody that like since the early ages, like women have been like more victims from this problem than men. It's not, it's like it's really it's evident like in if you study like history and things like that, that women have been more victims.
And the second and the third one, we can see that is more of society. So are like the different behaviors that we have between us that must include respect and the attitude that we have. Isa.
Yeah, and it especially and it like a big important term, it's stereotypes. In these social attitudes, stereotypes come like with a very big impact. We should all destroy stereotypes because stereotypes tell you what to do. Stereotypes tell you how you should act, and stereotypes they are all. Oh, of course, there are some good stereotypes, but talking about gender, stereotypes should not exist. They
And
need
gender role stereotypes in which like different activities are like associated with the sex.
yeah, and of course raising awareness globally, like as we are doing here, we are doing our little project, and I know it is not like something that people is going to really know because it's just here in our school. But if in every school there's somebody who spreads the message, I think that giving importance and awareness and about this thing could get us to like have a equal world with equal like opportunities for everybody. Educating boys and men and girls and women, everybody, it's and also it's education for you not being victimizer of gender violence. It's wrong to be the victim of gender violence, of course. It's but I think it's worse being the victimizer because you should not introduce gender violence to everybody, and you should not accept gender violence in yourself and in anybody around you or someone you really know. And the fifth one, that it's of course the most complicated in all of these things, is transforming like the judiciary systems that
Like it is true that like the different like the rights of equality exist in the country. They are like just written, but they are like not taken into account by everyone.
So the culture of the legal system, the culture of the healthcare system, while they know what they have to do by law, they don't necessarily do everything that they can to promote equality.
Yeah, for the best example of this is what is happening right now in Colombia, and that many people like are not aware of what is happening. So right now, gender violence against women has spread like a lot more than it was because because you living like 24 hours with in your family, it has been like a total disaster in terms of gender violence. Alejandra, tell us more about this.
Between the April 20 and the 4th of March, they were like reported 12 deaths of women.
Well, that's so, in Colombia or in Pereira?
No, in Colombia. See, from
12 women have been assassinated.
Assassinated.
How do you
Yeah, assassinated.
dominated by men
Mm-hmm.
4th of March, since the 4th of March.
No, from 20th of April until the 4th of March, they were 12 killed, and that's a lot of women, like little days.
It says that the statistics said that gender violence has increased like 79.
79%.
79%.
Wow.
It is
That,
incredible.
That's actually one
It
of
is
the
not
questions I was.
possible, like you cannot get out of your house, and there is like just a little of the ones that are victims that like call to make the denunciation, I think.
To report.
Yes, to report the cases. Not all of the women that are suffering this problem report the cases, and they cannot get out of their houses. And also, I think by like the fear that they have.
Yeah, but if you think like 79%, it is crazy. It is something that, yeah,
It's very, very alarming. Actually, that was one of the questions that I was going to ask you is, let's say, taking that into account as one part of it, but just in general, this COVID situation, do you think that it's a good thing or a bad thing for generating the type of consciousness about gender? Because one thing that has come to my mind is that, for instance, maybe as more men spend more time in their homes, they start to realize how much work a house is, right? I mean, a house is a lot of work, and keeping it clean and cooking and maintaining the house all day long is a lot of work. And if it's oftentimes women who are in charge of that work, I'm wondering if this can be a good thing in terms of, then at least men will start to realize, like, oh, it's not just you know nothing or something that women do during their free time, right? It's work.
Yes, I think that it is both good and bad. It is good because what you are saying out like raising like awareness of the situation, and I think that in this moment like everyone in the house is helping, because it's not only woman the one that is responsible of these different like activities in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And we like should respect in each of our houses like the different members of our family, and like work for the relation between us. And it is bad for what Isala was saying, because like you are 24 hours with the same person, and this increases that like the possibility of a man or can like have these violent behaviors with a woman, or also
yeah. Unfortunately, there are many families in which the relationship between men and women, it's just not good. So staying, it starts to be like, I think, annoying from some people, like watching. I cannot explain like really good like the feeling that I have of that stuff, like the husband looking at the wife and like, come and my dinner and my blah blah blah, and
Homer Simpson.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I extremely hate that. And but you're totally right, Mr. Chris. I haven't thought about that specific point. Thank you for that, because yeah, I just thought about it, and yeah, I think that there are pretty like many people looking and like um how do you say, agradeciendo,
thank
Being
you.
thankful.
grateful grateful for the work that women really do every day of their lives, because there are many women that just work for the home and just stay home like every single day. And I think that there should be many people like seeing the real work of of women. I really I haven't thought about that
And it's
thing.
interesting because it has a double effect, because if women are culturally expected to work in the home, but that work is also not compensated in any way, women usually don't make money by working in the home, and so then they're also at an economic disadvantage, because then their spouse is the one who has the economic power in the relationship. Whereas, it's time to start thinking about the idea of a homemaker or a home caretaker as a profession. I mean, really, it is
Yeah.
work. It's something that that takes time, and that work should be compensated in some economic way is an interesting idea. It's one that's not simple, but it's one that's important again.
Yeah, but I think that it's extremely difficult for.
Oh, sure. The economic situation right now is going to make it even more complex,
Yeah.
but at the very least, I think there are more people now understanding. Wow,
Mhm.
that's yeah. Mom isn't just staying home and having fun, right?
Yeah.
She's
Like
she's working
staying
hard.
in the sofa watching TV all day.
No.
Universal basic income would be the economic possibility of having it make sense in society. I would say I like my economics, and I definitely think universal basic income, if it were applied, would benefit people, and it would actually, it's speaking from economics as well, it would probably actually create more gender equality, honestly, because I
Yeah.
promise you. Well, okay, I know my old man, and I know a few other friends whose dads would wake up in the morning and be like, ugh, not today, not today, son, So it might, shift things over and provide a more gender equality system, having a universal basic income, possibly, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And but in our project, like that's difficult to like think and achieve, because you cannot explain those big things to 8 years old. Like, no, of course no, we have to really like explain the little children, like really, and making not them seen as like, oh, there are our teachers. No, it's more like playing and reading and just, yeah,
Well,
But we
that
think that like we already finished with all the educational activities, and we think that we had an impact of them. Like we have still not, we are working this week on making like the final diagnosis, but what we saw from the reflection of the different activities is that like the different things that they said, that yes, like everyone is equal, you can have different like thinkings, and they like understand what was gender violence, what was discrimination.
a really fun thing is that one girl in one of the fourth graders, she was really mad about the boys saying those things, and she was like, no, shut up, you don't know what you're saying. And like, in my home my dad also works, and she was like very into this topic, and I was like, oh my god, I know, I feel you. I feel you. Yeah.
well, as educators, I think a lot of the time, we have to think of our work as like planting seeds. And when you plant a seed, you don't see the fruit immediately, right? But over time, that act of planting those seeds is going to make the change that you guys are talking about. And so, really, really cool project.
Very cool project, guys. Yeah, Brian, I love that. I love that ending about seeds, because next time the person says, what do you do for a job? I'm going to tell them, oh, I'm a gardener, you see. Yeah, I like to plant my seeds every day.
There
So
you go.
absolutely. Yeah. So from the two gardeners here, Brian and
Well,
Dave.
ladies, is there anything else that you wanted to mention before wrapping up?
Yeah, we want to read a quote from a book that we read. We read that Mr. Cross recommended us to us, and we want you, and I personally recommend it for every single person that is watching this podcast right now.
It is really good, like reading the personal experience that the author
It is called We All Should Be Feminist. And it's from Chimamanda Ngozi.
I love Chimamanda Ngozi.
Yeah, she's like an excellent writer. I extremely loved the book, and it's very interesting, like to see the perspective that she wants to give everybody and all the society all around the world.
She
So,
doesn't only write from gender equality, she even writes from like every stance of equality, honestly. There's a short story I've read about her from like immigration equality, racism equality, race equality. I love Chimamanda Ngozi. She's fantastic.
she's fantastic, yes. So the book is called We All Should Be Feminist. And it gives like a different point of view about feminism. That it's not just like covering up like woman, but it's just but it's just like equality for everybody.
Yeah, and there's like a misunderstanding out feminism is like that women want to be superior, like have more rights. No, that's why like many people is not like agree with it. Feminism is just like having equal rights between both sexes.
Yeah, it is a really good book. Really good book.
You want to read the quote?
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Yeah, we're gonna read the quote. Okay, so the problem with gender is that it prescribes how we should be rather than recognizing how we are. Imagine how much happier it will be, how much freer to be our true individual selves if we didn't have the weight of gender expectations. So it's what we negotiate 2014, like in the page 34 of We All Should Be Feminist. So it's basically the idea of our project, like be our true individual selves, as she states there, and not going with the stereotypes and not like overthinking about like I am a girl and I should like this type of things and I should dress as like, yeah, that's the basic message we want to spread in fourth graders and right now with all the LTSM community.
Awesome. Well, I think you guys really are planting a lot of seeds, and I hope that the viewers watching the podcast will also allow themselves to be fertile ground for the seeds to lay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, it was a pleasure having you on board today. I'm part of the USS RAD right here. It was an absolute pleasure, and we really look forward to having future guests join our show. So if you got a topic, bring it on the RAD show. What's good?
We make it even radder than it was before.
Ciao, everyone. Take care.
I don't even know what to do with these.